Welcome to Stock Talk. If you're looking to stay sharp on the market without getting lost in the noise, well, you've come to the right place. Before we jump in, just a quick heads up, we really rely on your support to keep this going. So please hit subscribe, maybe share this with your network, give us a like, drop a comment, it all helps. We really appreciate it. Okay, let's dive into what's actually moving the markets today, May 20th, 2025.
Right. So looking at the market overview, it's a bit cautious today. The S&P 500 futures dipped slightly after that nice 6-day winning streak it had.
Okay. Take a bit of a breather then.
Exactly. But interestingly, the NASDAQ and the Dow actually managed to squeak out some small gains.
So a mixed bag to start.
Pretty much. But it definitely sets the scene for some pretty significant company-specific news we've been tracking.
Absolutely. And kicking things off in tech Google, they've just rolled out the mobile app for NotebookLM. That's Android and iOS, right?
Correct. And the big deal here is it puts their AI summarizing and voice briefing tools right in your pocket, essentially.
Makes it much more accessible on the go.
Yeah.
You have to think that changes how people digest info, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. The ease of using AI now to, break down complex stuff, it could really impact productivity, how we engage with content. It's part of that wider trend, embedding pretty sophisticated AI into easy-to-use mobile apps.
Yeah, makes sense. And sticking with cutting-edge tech, D-Wave Quantum, their stock, QBTS, jumped over 20%.
Wow, 20%. That's huge. What was the trigger?
They announced Advantage 2. It's their 6th-gen quantum computer.
Right, Advantage 2. Faster, more efficient, they say. Quantum computing is still, a bit out there for everyday use.
Still feels a bit sci-fi sometimes.
It does, but these advancements from D-Wave and the market getting this excited, it really shows the momentum building in that space. Suggests growing confidence, I think, in the long-term potential.
Okay, now let's pivot to a story with a bit of a contrast. Tesla, TSLA. Their CFO got a massive pay package for 2024. What was it, $139 million?
Back to the number, mostly stock options, yeah.
But this comes right when they reported, a 13% drop in Q1 deliveries?
And a huge profit plunge, 71%.
That's quite the juxtaposition.
It really is. It certainly makes you think about how exec pay lines up with actual company performance. Like, is it about long-term belief? Or is there maybe a disconnect when shareholders are seeing numbers like that? Different ways to look at it, for sure.
Moving into M&A territory now. Regeneron, that's REGN, they're buying 23andMe.
Ah, right. 23andMe has been struggling financially, haven't they? Bankruptcy, I think.
Yeah, and Regeneron picking them up for $256 million.
And getting access to that huge genetic database, 15 million users.
Exactly. It comes after 23andMe had that data breach and falling revenue, too. Expected to close Q3 this year.
Well, it just shows how valuable that kind of genomic data is for drug development, doesn't it? Even with all the recent issues at 23andMe. And that data breach is a big reminder about data security responsibilities, critical stuff.
Okay, shifting to media. Netflix, NFLX, they scored a big deal for Sesame Street.
Oh, really? What's the deal?
Exclusive global streaming rights for season 56, plus a big chunk of the archive.
Ah, smart move. Bolstering their kids and family content. That's always a sticky audience for streamers.
Definitely seems strategic. Securing something like Sesame Street, that's, evergreen content. Adds long-term value.
Right. Now, speaking of media, there's a shakeup at CBS News, part of Paramount, PARA. The CEO, Wendy McMahon, has resigned.
Oh, any reason given? Sounds sudden.
Reports suggest it's tied to some internal friction over a potential legal settlement involving Paramount, former President Trump, and that 60 Minutes lawsuit.
Wow, okay. That's a complex mix. Media, politics, legal battles. Always fascinating when those collide.
Indeed. A leadership change at a place like CBS News, it often signals shifts in direction, maybe editorial focus. The backdrop here certainly adds layers.
All right, let's talk semiconductors. Intel, INTC. Word is they're thinking about selling their network and edge division.
Yeah, that's the buzz. It's a pretty big unit, too. Pulled in $5.8 billion last year.
So why sell?
Seems to align with the CEO, Lip Bhutan's strategy, really focusing back on their core business, designing and making chips.
Streamlining, maybe. Makes sense. Divesting non-core parts can sharpen focus, potentially boost the bottom line.
Exactly. Now, staying with big deals, there's an update on Nippon Steel trying to buy U.S. Steel.
Ah, yes. That's been facing some hurdles, hasn't it? National security concerns.
Right. So Nippon Steel, that's TYO.5401 in Tokyo, they've upped their planned U.S. investment significantly to $14 billion total. Includes $4 billion for a brand new mill.
Trying to sweeten the deal for regulators, presumably? For the main $14.9 billion acquisition of U.S. Steel, ticker X.
Looks that way. It shows they're serious in trying to address those concerns head on. But yeah, national security reviews add a whole other level of complexity to these international deals.
Okay, let's hop over to Europe. News about Airbnb in Spain.
Yeah, Spanish authorities have told them to pull nearly 66,000 listings.
66,000. Why?
Regulatory violations. It comes as Spain's really grappling with housing affordability issues, the housing crisis there.
That really highlights the tension, doesn't it, between the sharing economy benefits and the impact on local housing markets.
It does. We're seeing this play out globally.
Yeah.
Governments trying to find that balance between tourism revenue and, well, keeping housing available and affordable for locals. Expect more regulatory action, I think.
Okay, now for something really futuristic. Robotics startup Beyond Imagination, founded by Ray Kurzweil.
Ah, Kurzweil. Yeah, they're raising money, right?
Reportedly a $100 million Series B round, values them at $500 million.
Wow. What are they building?
Humanoid robots. They call them Beyond Bots. The idea is to use them to tackle labor shortages, especially in U.S. manufacturing.
That's fascinating. A huge investment like that shows real belief in advanced robotics solving these big economic problems, like labor gaps. Could be transformative, if it works.
Right. Okay, let's switch gears to earnings. Home Depot HD.
What's their story? Dealing with tariffs, I imagine.
Yeah, but they plan to keep prices stable. Their strategy is to get suppliers to shift production out of China.
Proactive supply chain management. Did it work for sales?
Seems okay.
Right.
U.S. comparable sales were up slightly, 0.2%, and they reaffirmed their outlook for the year. Shows some resilience.
Good example of navigating trade issues and suggests home improvement spending is holding up, more or less.
Ryanair next, RYAAY. Their profits were down for the full year.
Yeah, net profit dropped to $1.61 billion from $1.92 billion.
Well, that's a drop.
They cited lower fares, basically more competition maybe, and higher costs. But interestingly, their revenue is actually up 4%.
Huh. So more people flying, but not as profitable.
Pretty much. And they're sticking to their 3% passenger growth forecast. Just shows a tough balancing act in the airline business price versus costs.
Okay, last one on earnings. Vodafone, VOD. They reported a loss.
Yeah, a $411 million loss for their fiscal year 2025.
What drove that?
Big factor was huge asset impairments, like write-downs totaling $4.5 billion.
Ouch. Did revenue grow at all?
It did, but only by 2%, which was apparently below what the market expected.
So, not a great picture overall. Those impairments really overshadow the slight revenue gain. Raises questions about maybe some of their assets or strategy.
Definitely indicates some headwinds for them.
Okay, let's broaden out a bit. Economic and energy news. Some potentially good news for Memorial Day travel in the U.S.
Possibly. Forecasts suggest average gas prices could be around $3.08 a gallon.
Lowest since 2021, right?
That's what they're saying, mainly due to lower crude prices and OPEC pumping more.
But there are caveats, I assume.
Always. Refinery issues could pop up. Trade tensions are still a thing. Those could limit how far prices fall. Just shows how many factors feed into that price at the pump.
Right. And unfortunately, on the housing front, mortgage rates are up again.
Yeah, back above 7%. It seems linked partly to that Moody's downgrade of the U.S. credit rating recently.
And that's hitting housing demand.
Looks like it. Reports show pending home sales dipped, builder confidence fell in April, suggests the market is definitely cooling off with these higher rates.
Makes borrowing much more expensive. Bound to have an effect.
Absolutely. Now, shifting focus to China, they're trying to stimulate their economy.
How so?
Cutting interest rates. Both the 1-year and 5-year loan prime rates down by 10 basis points. Plus, state banks are lowering deposit rates too. The goal is to get people and businesses borrowing and spending more.
Trying to combat slower growth and those ongoing trade tensions with the U.S.
Exactly. We'll have to see how effective these measures are, especially with the trade backdrop.
And down under, Australia's central bank also cut rates.
They did. Dropped their benchmark rate by 25 basis points down to 3.85%, lowest since May 2023.
Why the cut there?
Inflation seems to be easing off and consumer spending looks a bit weak, so they're moving towards a more accommodative stance. There's even talk of more cuts later.
Interesting how different economies are facing different pressures right now.
Definitely. And one last one on energy. ConocoPhillips' CEO, ticker COP, gave a bit of a warning.
About what?
About U.S. shale oil production. He basically said it might stagnate unless crude prices stay above $60 a barrel.
And where prices now?
Around $63. So kind of near that threshold. Suggests production growth might level off without higher prices to justify investment.
Highlights the economics of shale, doesn't it? Very price sensitive.
Very much so. Key factor for future supply.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's quickly run through this week's IPO calendar. What's happening?
All right. Today, Tuesday the 20th, we had Pelican Acquisition Corporation, PELI. That's a SPAC, right?
Yeah, a special purpose acquisition company. Looking for a private company to merge with, usually tech.
Right. SPACs are, an alternative route to public markets, but their success really depends on the merger target they find.
Then Wednesday the 21st, we have OFA Group, ticker OFAL.
Okay, what's their story?
Well, this one's interesting. Their trailing 12-month revenue is quite low, under $400,000. And their year-over-year revenue growth is actually negative 51%.
Oof. That definitely raises some eyebrows. Investors will be digging into that, wanting to know the plan for turning things around.
Yeah, you'd think so. Thursday looks busier. 2 IPOs. Hinge Health, HNGE.
Digital health, right. How are their numbers?
Much stronger. $390 million in trailing revenue and growing over 33% year over year. Looks more established.
Okay, promising sector. And the other one?
MNTN, Inc., ticker MNTN. They're in ad tech. Also solid numbers. $225 million trailing revenue, almost 28% growth.
Right, so 2 companies in potentially high-growth areas hitting the market on Thursday.
And then Friday the 23rd wraps up with Candle M Venture Limited, FMFC.
Where are they based? What do they do?
Based in Cambodia, they're a contract manufacturer focusing on affordable luxury goods.
Interesting niche. How are their financials?
Trailing revenue just under $14 million. Pretty modest growth, about 3.7%. Gives a peek into a different part of the global manufacturing scene.
Yeah, shows the diversity of companies going public now. Global reach.
So there you have it. That's our focused breakdown of the key stock market and business news for May 20th, 2025.
Yeah, lots happening. It's definitely worth thinking about how all these pieces, tech, deals, earnings, economic shifts, might connect and, influence your own view of the market.
Absolutely. And just thinking back to that Tesla story, the contrast between the company's recent performance and the CFO's huge payout, it really makes you pause, doesn't it? Makes you wonder what the market's really prioritizing right now and, well, how that balance between company results and executive pay is being viewed. Definitely food for thought. Okay, before you head out, please remember to subscribe to Stock Talk. If you found this useful, share it, give us a like, and definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.